Been fascinating to watch this tennis match between the Buccaneers and Josh Freeman. Back and forth we go. What he did, what he didn't do. Greg Shiano's role here. Rick Stroud covering the Buccaneers, Tampa Bay Times. And, you know, can you summarize in the last month what has happened here, Rick?
Well, it's been interesting. I mean, right now it's game, set, match Josh Freeman, right? He got exactly what he wanted after he was benched, at least, and that is to be released. But it's been unlike anything that I've experienced, and I've experienced some weird down here in Tampa Bay over the years. And, unfortunately, Josh is a good guy. I think Greg Shiano genuinely tried to make it work, at least last year. And when they got into this season, even in the off season, you never got a sense that he really wanted Josh Freeman as his quarterback. And I think Josh sensed that as well. But this thing spiraled quickly out of control. And with the accusations that the Bucs somehow released information about him being stage 1 in the drug program, and all of that has led to just a really somewhat embarrassing episode, to say the least, for the Buccaneers.
But I'm trying to think what happened first, that Shiano fell out of love with Josh Freeman, or Josh Freeman forgot how to play football?
Well, I don't know that he forgot how to play football, and that's the thing. You see a kid that came in and at a very young age had won 10 games and threw 25 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. And so you can't fluke your way into that. But when you change coaches, when you change systems, young guys can get caught in the wash. And I just think that, Josh is one of these guys who seems to thrive as a chaos quarterback. He's at his best when things break down. He's not going to be Eli Manning. He's not going to be Peyton Manning-esque. And I don't mean in terms of that level, but just in the ability to really sort of a paint-by-the-numbers quarterback. And he's more like Ben Roethlisberger in that sense. And I just think that, for what Greg Shiano wanted to do, it just wasn't going to happen here. And as an organization, I think they failed because they had an opportunity. If that was going to be the case, they probably should have, at the end of last season, when they lost 5 out of 6, and Josh still had value, said, you know what, we don't think it's going to work with this head coach. We need to move on and do something else and get value for him while we could. Now they get nothing. Who's
got a brighter future in the NFL, Greg Shiano or Josh Freeman?
What a great question. That's really hard to say. As we sit here right now, it would have to be Josh Freeman, only from the standpoint that he's done more in the NFL than Greg Shiano. He's won more games, and that's what it comes down to, right? I mean, Greg Shiano came from Rutgers, not a high-profile program, doesn't have much cachet in terms of winning national championships or playing for national championships. So, like most college coaches, he's got to hit it quick. And not only that, he grinds these guys, Dan. I mean, he's not – he'll tell you, I'm a tough coach, and he's got a thick skin, and he's taking some of the barbs right now. But at the end of the day, you got to win. If you win and you're like this – then you're disciplinarian. Your guys are always in line. If you lose, you look like a maniac. And that's just the way it goes. You have to win football games, and right now they've lost 9 out of 10.
Can he continue to coach this way with his team, with its personality, with what has transpired so far?
Well, he can if he can keep that locker room intact, and he's got to have the leaders that are behind him to do it. And they think this is as much about Mike Glennon as it is about Josh Freeman. They really, really like Mike Glennon. Now, he's a rookie. He's a third-round pick. There's not many guys that can do that out of the third round like Russell Wilson did. So from that standpoint, I think it's going to be tough. But, you bring in guys like Darrelle Revis that you trade for, and pay him $16 million. Carl Nicks, Deshaun Golston, these are guys coming from teams that have played in Super Bowls. So you have to keep them in order, and you better start when it's about, again, winning games, because they're not going to leave pieces of themselves from here to Seattle so that you can develop a young quarterback and run, sort of a college-like program here.
Is Shiano, would we label it the hot seat? Or is it even, do we have to come up with a different description here?
Well, he controls the temperatures in the meeting rooms, but I think he's going to have to turn them down even further, because it's at least warming up. And we don't know where the owners stand on this. There's a reason they brought him in. They felt like they needed the organization and the structure and what he brought. But it's awfully early to pull the ripcord on a guy, just a quarter of a way through his second season. But look, I mean, there was barely 42,000 people in the stadium the other day. That's what owners pay attention to, as well as just sort of the narrative. The narrative has to change, and the quickest way to do that is to win.
Good to visit with you. It seems like there's a few more chapters to this, more episodes of this soap opera.
No doubt, Dan. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
All right, bud. That's Rick Stroud, Tampa Bay Times.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.